Okay, well, welcome to today's video, and we will be making a modular farm for probably the most requested item, which is the HC Valley battery. As always, all factory showcases that you see in these videos are always fully modular, which means you can infinitely replicate them as long as you have the depot space. All of the factories you see here are 100% efficient, which means they only use the exact amount of items you need, and there will never be any clogging as long as you're able to supply enough items. And all of the factory blueprints showcased here are fully compatible with any other video that you see on my channel, which means that you can easily place one next to another and not interfere at all. Okay, so for the build itself, as always, first, in terms of materials, to sustain it at 100% efficiency, you will need 120 ferrium ore, 180 originium ore, and you will need some sand leaves. As always, sand leaves, it will work even if you have just one of them, but if you want to make sure that you have 100% efficiency, since it is getting duplicated 3 times in total, you do want to make sure to have, like, I would say at least like 100 in your storage, just to ensure that it is able to continuously draw the items for it, right? The blueprint itself will be split into 2 parts, so the codes for the blueprints will be available in the description for the EU and America servers. If anyone from the Asia server rebuilds this factory, feel free to share your comment and your codes. I'll make sure to pin them in the comment section. For the power requirements, in order to power this up, you will need a total of 510 power. However, because you will be making 4 batteries every 40 seconds, you can just reroute some of those batteries to power up your system. In total, with this amount of production, you are able to get a total of 4,400 power. Now, for me, all of the batteries are going into the storage. However, towards the end of the video, after I showcase how the factory works, I will show you a quick way of how you can actually just set up a efficient factory usage system as well, right? So if anyone wants to copy it from the Asian server, I'm quickly gonna pause it here for a few seconds so you can stop the video and, I don't know, either pause it or screenshot it. So this is the bottom part, and this is the top part of the factory, right? Items are already flowing, so you can easily see the routes or where everything is going. Another thing, this factory is again a 2-part factory, because as you can see, if I try to save it, it does not allow me to do that due to a very high amount of machines in this space. However, it is very easily to place this factory even with 2 blueprints. So again, there will be a left side and a right side blueprint, right? So depending on which side you are starting to build, if you're beginning from the right side, use the right side first. If you're beginning from the left side, use the left side first. I always do the left side, so today we can showcase the right side, for example. So we select the right side factory, and we line up the depot unloaders to the very corner, right? Once we have this placed, we select the left part of the factory, and we line up the depot unloaders next to each other. And once you do this, as you can see, the whole factory will come together, and after like a few minutes, you will start receiving your first HC Valley batteries, right? Oh, and I almost forgot to mention the size of the factory itself is, I would say, relatively small. As you can see, it is 33 squares wide and 30 squares tall, which means that it is able to fit into your outpost base, where I am right now, because outposts are 40 by 40. So not only are you able to fit this, you can also do 2 more unloaders in case you need some small operations here. And you also can set up another production line from your HQ base if you need something produced, right? So this is like very, very compact, and you'll still have some space available. In the main hub, you are actually able to place a total of 3 of these, not just 1. The reason for that is the main hub is 70 by 70, so you will be able to stack two of these next to each other. Plus, once you unlock the last upgrade, you will also be able to stack a third one on the vertical depot unloaders, right? And now just to quickly explain how the factory works itself. So we have 4 ferrium ores. All 4 of them are getting fed into these stacked refining units, and from the refinings they are getting stacked into the shredding units. After that, we are feeding 2 powders each into the 2 grinders. So 2 powders going into here, 2 powders going into here, and we also need some additional sand leaf powder. So we'll need 2 of them. Each of them is going into the grinding machines, right? I'm not going to explain too much how the C duper works at this point. I think if you've seen any of my videos, you already know it's the same design. You take your plant, you make 2 Cs, and then you just keep duplicating for as much as you want, and you always feed 1 plant back to the stash just to ensure that this is able to sustain with the returns that you get, right? So from the grindstones, both of those are getting fed back into the refining units where you make the steel item, and then to the fitting units where you make the steel parts, right? These are one of the 2 items that you need for the final battery. So as you can see, both of the steel parts are getting fed into the final battery unit. Now for the Originium, so you will need a total of 6 inputs because it does require you to have 15 of these, which means that you need to feed 3 of these every 2 seconds, and in order to sustain 3 of them, you will need to have 6 initial Originium outputs. So I know Originium is a bit hard to come by because even when you max out all of the mines, you don't have a lot of it. But you will be able to sustain, I believe, 2 or maybe 3 of these plants in total if you have nothing else. So Originiums all are getting fed into these 6 stacked shredding units. From here on out, they are getting fed into 3 different grinding units together with the sand leaf powder. So as you can see, 2 going here together with the sand leaf, 2 going here, and 2 going in here. And then once we have all 3 of those, all 3 of them are getting fed into the battery unit, where the final battery is getting stashed into the protocol stash. Now you also see there is some sand leaf powder left over. The reason for this is sand leaf gets produced 1 for 3, right? But in total, to sustain this build, you need a total of 5 powder, which means that either we have 1 powder left over going into the protocol stash, we can leave the bridge completely cut, in which case the system will eventually clog up all the way down to here. So that's not a great example, and yeah, there's simply the reason for that is that it's a very odd number of powder you need, right? Usually with all the recipes you are able to equal it out easily, but with this you just have that 1 powder left over. So I am feeding it back into the base. However, one thing you need to know is if you see that this factory stops working, for example, and you are not sure why that happens, that is most likely because the sand leaf powder will be filled up, right? If you have high storage, in most cases, as you can see with the current yield, this is of course split across a lot of different factories I have, and all of those will be using up. So the actual gain is probably going to be like 6 or 12 per minute. So depending on the size of your storage, maybe once, maybe like twice, or rather once or maybe once every 2 days, you will need to go into your main depot and select the sand leaf powder and stash it away, right? You can stash all of it. If you don't have any other building that uses direct sand leaf powder, as you can see, it won't be an issue, but yeah, you need to stash it away to ensure that it has enough space to fill out, because if it does fill up the storage, it will also start clogging this, and it will be even worse because once this gets clogged, the batteries won't be able to even go to your base due to everything in here being just sand leaf powder, right? Unless you are feeding the batteries into the thermal banks, of course. And the last thing I wanted to mention is that using this setup, you can also just directly power your build. So what you need to do is just to ensure that you are receiving the correct amount of battery. So for example, if you want to power 3 thermal banks at once, right? So you can easily select 3 banks right here and push all 3 batteries into them, right? So we do this, this, and this, right? This will ensure that, for example, you have 3 batteries going into here and 1 going into the storage, and in total this will give you 3,300 per hour. You can build as many as you need, right? However, you do want to make sure that you are splitting the exact amount of batteries that you need. So for example, if you only need 1 thermal bank, what you'll need to do is you need to either have all 4 bridges and then only 1 of them go into the thermal bank and the other 3 connect into the main belt going into the protocol stash, or you need to play around with some, well, I didn't mean to delete that, but you need to play around with some splitters, right? So okay, let me quickly, I believe it is the, no, it's not the getting unit, it is the packaging unit, no? I forgot which one it is. Yeah, it is a packaging unit. The way you can split this equally, so yeah, the first one I showed is you can do 1 belt. Let's say if you just want only 1 thermal battery and the other 3 to go into the protocol stash. So if you cannot do this, because at this point it only has 2 exits, which means that half of them will go here and half of them will go here. However, you only need a quarter of the total batteries produced to go here. So if you do half of the batteries, it will clog up the system and you will be losing quite a few batteries that you may need more urgently, right? Eventually it will equal out, but with time it will take some time to stack up, and if you really need the batteries going into your storage, it will take like a few hours until it is able to produce properly. So yeah, the few ways you can stack up. So the first one is if you have 3 belts and you converge them all into one. So the way you do this, you place a belt, then you go to your logistics, place a converger so that it is looking away from your building, and then connect the other 2 routes to here, and then you can connect that main route to the protocol stash. This will mean that it will split all of them into 4 equal parts. So 3 equal parts will be going to the protocol stash, and then the 4th one will go to the thermal bank. Now, another way you can do this is using a double splitter. So what you can do like this is, in this case, you will only need a total of 1 bridge. If, for example, you have something built here or something like that, and you only have like 1 or 2 exits available. So you can do a double splitter. So what happens is you do 1 split, divide it into 2 parts. This means that it is feeding all 4 into here, but it will equally split 2 and 2. And then if you only need 1 thermal bank, you push another splitter on one of the sides. Oops, didn't mean to do that. You push one of the splitters, and what this means is that you will be able to get essentially this divides 4 into 2 and 2, and then this divides 2 into 1 and 1. So you connect one of them to the thermal bank, and then you connect the second one into the main bridge, where you place another converger. So for example, one of them goes to here and the other one goes to here, and again you made a split of 3 batteries going into storage and 1 into the thermal bank. So that's how it works. For me, I am currently producing them just for selling, since I have enough power myself. So yeah, that's pretty much the build. If you have any questions regarding the build, feel free to let me know in the comments. I'll try to check them and let you know what you're looking for, right? And yeah, again, if you have blueprints for the Asia server build, feel free to share them in the comments. I know a lot of people are asking for them, so I encourage you to be a hero to save the people. And yeah, that's about it, and peace.